Hello everyone, my name is Elyse, and today we're continuing our music theory lessons. Last week I taught rhythm and time signatures, so go ahead and check those out. And my friend Alana this week will be teaching a new song, Cruella de Vil. Go check that out. It'll be coming up this week, and it's going to be so good. We're going to be working with that song too this week. Today we're finally going to be learning about what the note names are on the staff. Now we're going to be learning a lot, but don't worry, it's not going to get overwhelming. We're just going to take it a little bit at a time, okay? First, let's look at a regular staff. So we have 5 lines and 4 spaces. Notes can go anywhere in there on a line or a space, or even above or below the staff. The vertical lines show you which measure you're in. This is a grand staff. Notice how there are 2 regular staffs on top of each other, and they have weird looking symbols on them. The top staff starts with a weird curly G, that's called the treble clef, and we'll be learning more about that in just a second. And the bottom one has a weird backward C with a colon after that, and that's called the bass clef. The treble clef is for the higher notes, and the bass clef is for the lower notes. Let's take a look at the music piece Yoho that we were using last week to try and get an example of what a grand staff looks like on a normal piece of music. Can you find the grand staff? It's the 2 staffs with the brackets around it, with the treble clef and the bass clef right below it. That's for the piano players to know what to play while you sing. The top staff with just the treble clef is just for you to sing. Now that we know what the grand staff is, we can go ahead and learn the note names. In music, our alphabet goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then it repeats. So we go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 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 Each letter goes with one of the lines or one of the spaces on the staff. First, let's look at the keyboard of a piano so we can get a little bit better idea of how notes work. So if you look at this picture, you'll see that every single white note has a different letter to it. So we start with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats all the way through it. You'll notice that I highlighted middle C. That's a really important note for you to know. So go ahead and take a look at that. It's right in the middle of the keyboard, so you'll never lose it. Let's take a look at what a treble clef and the bass clef and all their notes look like on a piano keyboard. I know this is super overwhelming, but I just wanted you to get an idea of how the treble clef and the bass clef are connected. The treble clef is the higher notes and the bass clef is the lower notes, but they connect right at middle C. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the treble clef and all of the notes that are on it. So here we have the treble clef with all of the notes that we're going to learn today on it. So you can see that it starts with one note called C, which is middle C, and it is one ledger line below the staff. A ledger line is just that little tiny line that goes through the note because it's so far below the staff. Every time you move up a line or a space, the alphabet continues. So we start with C, and then we go to D, then E, then F, then G, and then we start at A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Again and again and again. Sometimes remembering which line or which space goes where is a little bit hard to remember, so I wanted to teach you a couple of memory tricks to help you remember what the lines and what the spaces are. The note names of the lines going up the staff are E, G, B, D, F. You can remember this by remembering elephants go bouncing down freeways. It's silly, but I'm hoping the silliness will help you remember. Spaces on the treble clef are the easiest ones to remember. Just remember that space rhymes with face, and that's what the letters are, F-A-C-E. When I was younger, my music teacher taught me E, G, B, D, F, those are the lines of the treble clef. F-A-C-E, learn your spaces carefully. Now that we've looked at the treble clef and the higher notes, let's go ahead and take a look at the lower notes and the bass clef. The bass clef generally starts at middle C and then goes down. Remember, when we're going down, we have to go through the alphabet backwards. So we're going to start with C and then go backwards to B, then A, then G, then F, then E, D, C, B, A, and then repeat. The best memory trick I have for the note names of the lines on the bass clef, starting from the bottom going up, is good burritos don't fall apart. The note names of the spaces on the bass clef going up are all cows eat grass, A-C-E-G. Remember that all of these memory tricks start from the bottom of the staff going up on the treble clef and on the bass clef. Let's go ahead and practice naming the notes by using Yo-Ho, the music piece that we used last week in rhythm. Okay, first let's take a look at the very beginning of the staff to figure out which clef we're in. Look and see that we're in the treble clef because we have that weird curly G at the beginning. That means we're generally going to be in the higher notes, and we're going to be using notes usually above middle C. Let's first try out our memory trick and see if we can figure out what the first note is. Remember that our memory trick for the treble clef for the spaces, because that's what this first note is, it's in a space, is space rhymes with face. So our spaces going from the bottom to the top are F, A, C, E. That means that this note is an A. The next note is two notes above it because there's a line and then another space. So we can either go A, B, C and figure out it's a C, or we could have used our memory trick, F, A, C, E, and seen that the third space in the treble clef is a C. The first note in measure 2 is the next note above C. So we can figure out that after C comes D, or we could have used our line memory trick and gone E, G, B, D, F, and seen that the D for elephants go bouncing down freeways is right there on the second to last line of the staff. The next note might look a little familiar. That's because it was the note right before this one, and it was C. The next note is right below the one right before this one. So we go C, and then we go backwards in the alphabet 1 to B. And we're back to familiar territory in this last measure. We have an A again. Remember F-A-C-E, it's the second space. And then we have an A again. And then right after that, we have the note right below that, which we go backwards in the alphabet, and we go to G, and we have G and then another G. Remember that you can always use a memory trick, like elephants go bouncing down freeways for E, G, B, D, F, the lines on the treble clef, or you can use face for the spaces on the treble clef to help you figure out which note is there in the treble clef. You can also figure out one note and then count up or down from it. Now that we've had some practice, it's time to throw something a little trickier in. Remember that in Yo-Ho, above the grand staff, we had an extra staff that showed us what to sing. And because there was only one staff, we only could choose one clef, so we chose the treble clef. If the music writer or composer ever wanted us to sing something below the middle C, we would have to add ledger lines below that to figure out which note we wanted. Ledger lines were just the same as lines on the staff, and the spaces in between the ledger lines were just the same as spaces on the staff. The notes below middle C on the treble clef are the same notes in the bass clef, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. Look for middle C. Let's see if you can find it. Did you find it? It's on beat 4 of measure 1. Notice that if a note goes any lower than middle C, or after middle C in this example, it goes one note down, which means that it goes on the space right below the ledger line for middle C, and it's the same as the B in the bass clef. If we were to go any lower than the B, we would add another ledger line below the one for middle C, and so we would have A, where we'd have C, B, A. Notice that to the left of middle C in this example, that when we go up the treble clef, we can also add ledger lines and spaces between those ledger lines on the bass clef to represent those notes. Notice how one above middle C on the bass clef is same as the D in the treble clef. The first note that you'll see in Cruella de Vil is way below middle C in the treble clef, so let's try and figure it out together. First, let's notice that we're in the treble clef, which means we're in the higher notes, and we know that the first ledger line below the staff in the treble clef is C. That will really help us figure out where the first note in Cruella de Vil is. So we'll start with the C on the first ledger line below the staff and then count down. So we'll go C, B, the next ledger line is A, and then underneath that there's G, and then the last ledger line, the third ledger line below the staff is an F. Wow, that's really low. I know I threw a lot of information at you guys, but don't worry. Like I've said before, it's like learning a new language. It just takes practice. My cat wants to say hello to you. This is my kitty, and she wants to motivate you to keep learning and to keep practicing, because you're gonna make it and you're gonna be awesome. So don't worry about it right now, just keep practicing.